Today we're talking about a plan that's quietly taking shape in the European Union, and it could completely change how millions of us pay for things every single day. The EU wants to build its very own digital payment system from scratch, a move that could seriously challenge the giants we all use. We're talking Visa, Mastercard, even Apple and Google Pay. So let's get into it.
Think about it. It's something you do without even thinking. You're at a coffee shop, you're at the supermarket, you're buying something online, you tap your card, you tap your phone, you hear that little beep, and that's it. It's just seamless. It's how the world works now. But what's really going on behind that simple beep? There's this massive, invisible machinery at work. And that brings up a couple of huge questions that are now driving this major push in Europe. Who is actually calling the shots on that split-second transaction? And, maybe more importantly, who's getting a piece of the action every single time? Well, the answer, for the most part, is a small handful of American companies. I mean, Visa and Mastercard have built what's basically a duopoly that handles the vast majority of digital payments all across Europe. And while the service they provide is incredible, this total reliance on non-European companies is starting to be seen in a totally new light. You see, this isn't just about business competition anymore. For EU policymakers, it's become a question of strategic sovereignty. The idea that a foreign power could have that much leverage over Europe's entire economy is no longer just some abstract theory. The real wake-up call came in March 2022, when giants like Visa and Mastercard pulled out of Russia after the invasion of Ukraine. It showed the world that access to these payment networks could be turned off, just like flicking a switch. It was a powerful geopolitical move, and it got leaders in Europe thinking, wait a minute, what if that tool were ever used against us? And this gets to the very heart of the problem. Over half the countries that use the euro have no domestic alternative, zero. If you can't use an international card, you're back to using cash. And this dependency started looking even more risky after the US actually used financial sanctions against people at the International Criminal Court. So you can see why this idea of financial sovereignty suddenly became a top priority. Okay, so that's the big geopolitical risk. But there's a second, more immediate issue: cold, hard cash. Every single time you tap to pay, a small percentage of that money just vanishes from the local economy. The number at the center of this whole financial argument is about 3%. Now, I know 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you apply that fee to trillions of euros in transactions year after year, well, it adds up to billions of euros flowing right out of the European economy and into the hands of US payment companies. So you can really see the two different paths here. Right now, a slice of every payment pie is sent overseas. But under the EU's proposed plan, the whole thing would stay with the European merchant. It's a simple change on paper, but with absolutely massive economic consequences. And this is where it really hits home. For a huge corporation, a 3% fee is just the cost of doing business. But like this comment from our source material points out, for a small local shop, a little cafe, a family restaurant, that 2 or 3% could be their entire profit margin. It could literally be the difference between staying in business and having to shut down. So you've got this strategic vulnerability on one side and this constant economic drain on the other. What's the EU's big idea to fix it? Well, it's pretty ambitious. They want to build an entirely new, parallel payment system for the whole continent. The plan is being called the digital euro. The idea is to create a public utility for payments run by the European Central Bank. And the two headline features are, honestly, game changers. First, zero, and I mean zero, transaction fees for you and for the merchant. Second, the entire technology would be built and controlled within Europe. This isn't about replacing the euro currency itself, but about creating new, public, free, and European rails for that money to travel on. So what would this actually look like for you and me? Well, they want to make it super simple. First, you just link it to your existing bank account. No need to sign up for some brand new thing. Second, you could pay with either a phone app or a new digital euro debit card, pretty much just like you do now. And finally, and this is the killer feature for businesses, the merchant gets 100% of the money instantly. And look, if this whole thing sounds a little far-fetched, it's really not. Lots of countries have already proven that this model can work on a massive scale. Brazil's PIX and India's UPI systems are these huge success stories that have totally transformed their economies. And even in Europe, you've got popular national systems like Swish in Sweden and Bizum in Spain that show people are ready for this. The EU's plan is basically to take this proven idea and blow it up to a continental scale. But, and this is a big but, this whole plan kicks off a really fundamental debate. By shifting control away from private American companies, it puts it squarely in the hands of a public European institution. And that raises a critical question. Who do you actually trust more with your financial data?
So, on one side of the argument, it all comes down to accountability. The thinking goes that governments are, at least in theory, accountable to voters. You have ways to give feedback, to protest, to vote them out. A corporation? Well, its legal duty is to its shareholders, which pretty much always means maximizing profit, no matter what.
But then you have the flip side. The fear here is that a government-controlled system could become a tool for political control. I mean, if private companies can be pressured to block certain payments, what's to stop a government from doing the exact same thing whenever it fits their political agenda?
So you can see the trade-offs, right? There's no easy answer here. With private companies, decisions are driven by profit, and they can be leaned on by foreign governments. With public institutions, decisions are driven by policy and politics, and they can be used as a tool by the domestic government in charge. When you boil it all down, this entire, massive, complicated undertaking is about one single idea: financial sovereignty. It's about Europe deciding that the basic plumbing of its economy should be controlled by Europeans. For better or for worse, it's really a declaration of economic independence. So that leaves all of us with a really big question. As our world becomes more and more digital, the system that controls how we pay for things becomes one of the most powerful systems on Earth. The question isn't if someone will hold that power, but who? A private company that answers to its shareholders, or a public institution that answers to politicians and voters? It's a choice that will define the future of our money.